and welcome back to another episode of the Project Bag podcast. My name's Gemma and I'm coming to you from my home in Kent, where I live with my husband and our two gorgeous cats, Archie and Kit 9. If you are a returning viewer, wow, thank you, that's amazing. I really appreciate you dropping in again to spend another bit of your time having a cuppa and a chat with me. That's such a compliment, thank you. So lovely to have you back. If you're a new viewer, welcome. Thank you so much for trying out the podcast. This is going to be a podcast about all things crafty, primarily fibre related, knitting, crochet, spinning, there's some sewing, but there may be some other things along the way. In fact, actually next week there's also going to be a bit about baking, but more on that later because that's just for fun. And as I've said before, general nonsense. It's my podcast. You will get to know me if you don't already, and typically there's at least one thing that goes wrong. So I hope you have a cuppa with you. I'm just reaching for mine. And are happy to settle down, hopefully with some knitting, and have a crafty chat with me. I can't believe this is episode 4. It's beginning to feel like a thing now, like this is actually a real podcast, you know what I mean? It probably sounds really daft because lots of you will watch loads of podcasts who are in the hundreds of episodes. I mean, Kristen, for example, Yarngasm, love that podcast. She's in the 300s, I think now, and Amy Stranded, our very own homegrown Amy, she's in episode 105 this week. I've just watched it actually, it's gorgeous, absolutely love her Grace cardigan. I think I need to knit one. Sorry, I'm rambling already. Here we go, it's Gemma, she's back again. Yeah, and I'm on episode 4, so you're probably sat there laughing at me saying that I feel like a real podcaster now, but I kind of do. I kind of do. Oh, right. Should we do the podcastery thing? Should we talk about my... Now, okay, mug or cup? What do you think? I mean, it's huge, so you'd think mug, but it looks like a cup. I don't know. I kind of feel like I started something on episode 2. I think it was episode 2, where I held up my cup and said, oh, this is a mug, we're not messing about here. But now I kind of feel that I need to define this. Oh, I'm going to call this one a cup, although it's a very big cup. I like big cups and I cannot lie. Sorry, right, that's set the tone already, hasn't it? How many of you have switched off? Oh, it is a grey, I'm going to do the British thing. This is quite a grey, rainy, blustery sort of day. I'm kind of not looking at anything particular. I'm looking out my windows. My windows are in front of me. And it's the sort of day where you want to stay in, watch podcasts, here you are, and drink lovely hot drinks and knit. And I have actually spent some time under this rather lovely crochet blanket today. With my feet up, watching podcasts, getting completely distracted, letting time totally run away with me. It's 4:30 and I've sat down to record, which is just ridiculous. I was meant to record at 2, but there'll be more about that later. And on this sort of day, I tend to reach for this mug, cup, drinking vessel. I tend to reach for this vessel because I really like it. I like kind of like, you can, do you know what I mean? I'm not doing a very good job of this, but yeah. Oh, it's too hot to hold like that yet. But there's just something comforting about a big, round, big bottomed mug. Big bottom mugs. I don't know if I should start again or if I should just embrace the fact that I've gone completely too lally today. Oh dear. Some people do say there is one of these British stereotypes, isn't there, that we're a bit eccentric. I'm going to own that today. I'm going to own that today. In my vessel, actually vessel's a good word because like vessel you think of ship, and this is ginormous. It's more like a boat than a cup or a mug, and is a decaf, believe it or not, and thank your lucky stars because clearly I need caffeine. A decaf frothy coffee. There's that word. I can't say that word either. New viewers who are probably sat there going, not quite able to believe the hyper bubbly nonsensical randomness of this already. To clarify, we had a bit of a chat last week about words we can't say. I'm not going to start saying the words I can't say, but it's really interesting. But I've just discovered I can't say frothy. Froth. No, because it's at the front, isn't it? Frothy. Stupid words, like thief, for example. Now, how can I say thief with the F at the front, which is wrong, it's TH obviously, but I can't say frothy. I said it. Ha! Now, do I edit this out or do I leave it in? You don't come here for professionalism, do you? Especially not if you've come back. Having said that, last week's podcast didn't get as many views, so I hope I haven't scared too many people off. But hey, if you're here, you're back, then you're my kind of person. So there's that. That's done. Check. Got my coffee this time. Don't have to go and run off and look for it. Done the British thing talking about the weather. Already made a bit of a wally of myself, so I'm ticking off the things on the podcast list. Where can you find me? If you would like to follow me on social media, I am the Project Bag on Instagram. I am the Project Bag on Ravelry. There is a Facebook page, The Project Bag, and there is also the Project Bag Club on Facebook, which is much more inclusive than Ravelry. Perhaps it includes lots of different crafts. And we've got a craft along going on there at the moment. On Ravelry, sorry, not Ravelry, Etsy. I do have an Etsy shop where I sell project bags and stitch markers. That is the Project Bag UK. And as I'm saying this, hopefully it's all appearing smoothly down there as well for you. Let's talk very briefly then about the craft along. I'm very deliberately saying craft along. Veteran podcast viewers will probably be used to hearing things like knit along, crochet along when they say cal. When I say cal, I mean craft along typically, because my craft alongs that happen in my Project Bag Club over on Facebook are inclusive of all crafts. So this current one we've got going actually wraps up next Friday. So from the time this goes up, should go up Friday, you've got a week still to enter, and all you have to do is in the Facebook group page, and it's not on Ravelry and it's not down here in the down bar, is upload a picture of something that you've made or completed. I've allowed whips between the 1st of June and the 31st of August. So it's a 3-month craft along. I will be closing that, or I'll be turning off comments on the 31st, probably around about 10 o'clock at night, just to give you fair warning. I won't be staying up until midnight to do it. And I'll explain why a bit later, but there is a really good reason why I'm not going to give you those last 2 hours. You've had 3 months, you don't need another 2 hours. Come on, come on. And I'll be drawing prizes for that on the following week's podcast. There won't be one the first week of September, and again I will come to that a little bit later. I forgot last week, I said I would and I didn't explain. So weather, check. Mug or cup, thing, drink, what am I drinking, check. Where you can find me, check. Craft along, check. Oh no, hang on, with the craft along you have to be able to say why it feels like summer, why this project you've made makes you feel like summer. I think of summer. And to be honest, I'm kind of thoroughly fed up of summer at the moment. I'm fed up of being hot. I'm loving this slightly cooler weather because it means I can wear some knitwear. Yay! Last week I wore a gorgeous grey jumper knit for me by my mum, which also afforded me the opportunity to talk to you about shrinking sweaters and taking care of your knitwear. If you haven't seen that, then you know, pop back, check out episode 3, have a good laugh at my expense, and hopefully also learn something as well, because I take you through blocking and caring for knitwear a little bit as well. This week, and this has been on and off like nothing else, and my hair's probably, I don't really care about that. I can't get my words out. Why would I care about what I look like, right? Is, oh, there we go, boob review. A gorgeous, it's just like a vest top. Again, it's made by my mum. All my knits, yeah, all of them. All of the knits that I wear myself have been made for me by my mum, or there's a couple from my grandma as well. I don't tend to knit big things, and I certainly don't knit big things for myself either. I like to knit for other people. I've knit a few garments for other people, and also they're big, I get bored, you know. But anyway, it's a vest, and it actually kind of is tunic length. I can't really show you that unless I stand on my sofa. There we go. So it's tunic length, comes down past my bum, which is nice. And it is in a, it's in a commercial yarn, by which I mean it's something you can readily buy from places like your local yarn store, or John Lewis, or Love Knitting, or Derrimores, or Wool Warehouse. I'm going to put all these links down here. By a commercial company called King Cole Yarns, and you'll have heard of King Cole before if you've watched the podcast before, because I use it in one of my whips. And this is called, I'm just going to get up here, it's called Opium. Now if you were to ask me, that is not a drop stitch, that is just the yarn. If you were to ask me what weight this yarn is, I couldn't tell you, because it's really bizarre. I mean, I think you saw it just there. I'll just lean in again. Can you see here? They're not neps, it's not little extra bits. It's just, I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it. Lumpy bits? No, lumpy just sounds a bit naff, doesn't it? Anyway, there's different thicknesses of yarn within the yarn, and I think you knit it on fairly big needles. I think you knit it on 5mm or 6mm, which is more what you do for Aran weight, or a big DK. But yeah, so and King Cole have brought out a load of specialist patterns for it. It's called Opium, comes in a huge range of colours, from this kind of muted dusty blue to a bright magenta pink, to black, to white, to grey. And I mean, that's one of the beauty of commercial yarns, I suppose. Very affordable, and it's called Opium. And opium, for those of you who don't know, is actually a drug. It comes from the poppy plant, and some painkillers have opiates in them as well, which is why people get a bit funny about you taking too many of them. And so essentially it's addictive. I'm not saying that this is, King Cole's deliberately named it for a drug, but it's kind of fitting because I'm a bit addicted to it. My mum has knit me a few things in this yarn, and I can see more in my future. I like it, I really like it. I mean, obviously you have to wear it over something. I've got a gorgeous muted, it's kind of like a duck egg blue / green. It leans towards the green, if that makes sense. Cardigan, which I love as well. And this tunic, and I also have, I'm not going to call it a poncho, it's like a giant drapey cowl, which you can wear as a shawl, or it's not a poncho in the traditional sort of 70s meaning of the word. I haven't got it with me, but I'll find it at some point and show you. Maybe I'll wear it another time and we can talk about that. But that said, here I am saying hooray for cooler weather. I'm going to take it off now because actually I'm sweltering, absolutely sweltering. So back in a sec. So I'm back. Let's get into the main body of the podcast, and we're going to start with finished objects. Now I'm going to do something a bit different this week. Traditionally on podcasts like this, finished objects section, people assume it's just going to be knitting or crochet. Actually, I thought, well, why not combine it all? If I've got a finished object from any segment, let's put it in here. So I'm starting with sewing, because I don't have any knitting or crochet finished objects this week. There you go. Told you I wouldn't every week. Business as usual. I have been having a play with different new ideas to put in the shop. At the moment, my Etsy shop is primarily project bags and stitch markers, but I am working, zipped project bags and stitch markers, but I'm working on bringing other things in for the autumn. So last week I showed off my drawstring project bags, and this week I'm going to show you, how cute is that? It's a work in progress, and I know it's FOs, but I mean the design is a work in progress. I'm not quite happy with it yet. I don't like the way it ties already. See, I haven't even told you what it is yet properly, but I don't like the way it ties, so I think I'm going to use poppers. But it is a crochet hook roll. I'm quite pleased with it. So it's kind of gone from design to make all this week pretty much. I had the idea in my head for what I wanted it to be and the size I wanted it to be. I'd thought about crochet and knitting needle rolls that I've had in the past and what I don't like about them, what I do like about them. And so I've tried to make something that I personally would really enjoy using, and hopefully then other people will as well. So yeah, I've just used some nautical fabric, which I'm quite pleased with, and a plain inner. Can you spot the deliberate mistake already? Let me just close this up again. Okay, ignore all the loose threads. We know, for new viewers, finished objects on this podcast always have loose threads. Ends are never woven in, and in this case, not snipped off. If I open it up, can you see deliberate mistake? There. I've managed to sew my label so it is on the inside. Very useful, isn't it? But here we are. And I wanted it to have space for 10 crochet hooks. It didn't actually work out like that. I mean, eagle-eyed amongst you will say, but there's 5 there, there's a gap there, there's 3 there and a gap there. This gap here is actually meant to be so that the crochet hook roll can fold over easily. It gives you that little bit of space and then it folds over like that. This has been the thing I found really tricky to sort out, because there are so many different types out there. I mean, if I show you this one, I mean, these are commercial. I picked this one up from Hobbycraft. You've got this shape to it, and that slots in there nice and easy. And then you've got this style, but that is again, it's quite smooth and streamlined, and also it's very, very thin. So again, that slots in quite easily. That's fine, even on a chunkier hook. But then you've got these ones. Excuse me. These were ones I bought online from Happy Crochet. They're called Happy Crocheting crochet hooks. They are so comfortable to use. I really enjoy them. They are very ergonomic the way they're done. They've got this, I don't know if you can see, this flat bit to it, so you can brace your thumb and your finger against it, and it's but they're very wide at the bottom, partially because of that, and all that. And I did make it so that these crochet hooks will fit in these pockets, but it can be a bit of battle to get them in and out. Now I would like to know what you think about this, because if I go any bigger, then we run the risk, if you've just got an ordinary skinny crochet hook, of them just tipping out. And that's one of the things I don't like about a lot of knitting needle cases and crochet hooks. The pockets are all the same size for knitting needles, because obviously knitting needles get incrementally thicker. I mean, crochet hooks do as well, but the handles are bigger anyway than the hook size. Does that make sense? Whereas the knitting needles, the whole thing gets incrementally bigger. And I often find that if I'm using skinny needles, they will slip and slide, and the chunky needles stay a bit better. But I'd like to know what you think. Would you rather have a snug fit like that, where you have to work a little bit to get them in and out? It's not damaging the bag at all, and it's not damaging the hook, but they stay in there, they're not going anywhere. Or would you rather have them with a bit more give? Just let me know, if you wouldn't mind, in the comments below what you think. It's an almost finished object, not just because I haven't cut off those threads that you can see there, but because I haven't finished seaming it. And this is a bit cheeky of me. I don't know if you know, but there's also a Project Bag tutorials series starting on the channel. There's one video there at the moment, Mastering the Pearl Stitch, and they're not all going to be for knitting. The first one was. The second one, which I just got done recording the other day, is for sewing, and it is for precisely this. So you've got a project, and for something like this, you sew it with the right sides together facing one another, and then you turn it inside out. So the seams and the seam allowance is hidden inside there. They're hidden away inside, and you've got this really nice neat finish. Yeah, but that leaves you with a bit of a predicament, because when you turn it out, obviously you've got to leave a bit of it open. So that is what I left open to pull it all through with. And I have just done the tutorial to show you how to finish this perfectly with the ladder stitch. So if that's something you might find interesting, they are 15-minute tutorials, and you can find them over on my channel. So I am going to go and finish seaming this, and then I will show you a picture of it completely finished. Great, so that's it for finished objects, and it's also it for sewing. So I'm going to move right along to whips. The number of whips on my needles is increasing. I got 2 crocheted blankets off the hook in week 2, and I said, well, that means I can cast on 2 new projects, feeling very noble about it and very guilt-free about it. I haven't cast off anything else, but I've still cast something on. Oh dear. So no finished objects for knitting, but I have put a little bit of progress on my Calypso cardigan. Okay, if you think of another better name for it, let me know. I'm just calling it Calypso because I'm using Calypso yarns. So there's my naked stitch marker. Talked about this last week. It just means it doesn't have a charm on it, telling me where the armhole begins. And last time I was just about here with the stitch marker. I have done almost all of the 55 rows of stockinette, so I'm nearly at the point where I can cast the back off. And I will have got that done by the next podcast, she says, making promises and thinking, oh no, I've got so much to do. But hey, you guys can hold me accountable, right? I love it. I absolutely love it. Look at the colour there. It's so nice, isn't it? It's tonal. It's not a completely solid colour. It's almost speckly in its effect you've got with the tones. And it's silky soft, which is just absolutely lovely. It's just going to be a joy to wear. I've really enjoyed knitting with it. In the very first episode that I talked about this, I said that some people have found the yarn to be quite splitty, and I haven't. But I tell you what I have had a problem with. And there's a reason I'm not showing you the ball with the ball band around it anymore. Excuse me. Isn't that a hot mess? Isn't that a hot mess? Yeah, I've got to sort that out. That is partly why the back isn't finished, because I need to dedicate a good half an hour or so to sitting down and sorting out this. Some people call it yarn bath, like the ball of yarn's vomited itself up. Yeah. Total professional here. And in fact, I can't even show you it in its entirety. You'll see this because I've also managed to get it hooked around my bag, my tote bag. Yeah. That's kind of embarrassing. I did think about whether or not I should show you, but it's a warts and all sorts of podcast where you see is what you get. It's Gemma. So yeah, I need to sort that out. That's pretty bad, and get the back cast off, and then I can move on to the front panels. So I'm hoping that I will be able to get this cardigan to my mum's friend so she can wear it in the autumn. The yarn is King Cole Yarns. It is a commercial brand, which does mean that this is a really affordable cardigan to make. I will try and find some retailers of it online for you, and I will drop the links just down there. Okay, so that's the Calypso cardigan. I'm just looking off screen, sorry, not to be rude, not because I'm not interested in you, but because I'm sort of organising myself. I'll sip of this. I hope you've got a drink with you and you've got some knitting. I should have warned you at the top of the episode, I normally do, not to try and knit anything that takes too much concentration, because inevitably this goes so silly that, well, if it was me, I'd lose count and I'd get very frustrated with me. I get frustrated with me anyway, and I'm the one recording it. The next one, it's all about the test knits on this podcast today. It's all about the test knits. You will remember that I cast on last week, I had cast on the Sattler cardigan by Emily Walton, who is designing it for Expression Fibre Arts. I will put Emily's details down here so you can follow her on Instagram. She isn't on there as Emily, she's on there as her designer handle, and the same on Ravelry. You can follow her patterns and things on there. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, okay? We've had enough issues with words already, so rather than butcher it, I think I'm just going to put it there and say, I'm sorry, Emily, but I wasn't brave enough to give it a go, particularly after poor Sharon got called Sandra in all of episode 1. Bless her heart, she saw the funny side to that, and I'm so grateful. So thank you very much, Sharon. Really appreciate that. Anyway, I'd cast that on, and I can't remember how far I got with it when I showed you it last time, but on Sexy Green Waste Yarn, I have got the back completed. Da, 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 da. She says da 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 da, and it's not ready to da 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 with, is it? Oh dear. Consummate professional. Here we go. Right. So this is the back, and you're supposed to do something really clever and nifty and work the shoulders after the neck shaping in at the same time as though you're knitting one continuous row, but using 2 separate balls of yarn. Now, you've seen that King Cole stuff, right? There's no way I was going to split that into 2 balls and try and work with it. That was so not happening. So what I did was I just sort of worked out the instructions for each side, and I worked one side at a time, which is why I've got a few ends, but also why it's not a hot mess like my King Cole yarn is. This is the Oyster colourway, Juno Fibre Arts. I feel a bit mean showing you this because you can't get it anymore. She stopped dyeing a few years ago, which is such a shame. She was Devon-based hand dyer, and her yarn is just absolutely gorgeous. I fell in love with a skein. My very first skein of Juno was actually just over a year ago. We went to Dartington for the kind of food festival thing they had going on, country festival. And my husband had actually broken his collarbone like 2 days before, and we were waiting to go home to have surgery, and he was in a hell of a lot of pain, and he was on strong painkillers. He was on some of the opiates, and my mother-in-law and I went into the Dartington. It's a whole kind of craft community. You've got Dartington Crystal, which I'm sure you've all heard of. It's absolutely beautiful, and they had a craft area, and part of that was a yarn store, and I saw this skein of Juno Fibre Arts silk and cashmere and in lace, and I picked it up and I literally just walked around the shop stroking it and smiling, and the lady, the shop owner, was smiling at me, and I think my mother-in-law thought she was laughing at me, but no, this lady got it. She knew how I felt as I was stroking this skein of yarn. And I said to my husband, oh, do you mind if I buy this? Would this be okay? We hadn't been to Fibre East at that point, I don't think. I hadn't really understood all about indie yarns, and my husband's used to me buying commercial yarns at maybe £3 a ball. I was great at hunting the sales as well, and I was spending £23 on this skein, and he went, yeah, sure, absolutely, if you like it, go for it. I mean, I hadn't been very well, he was looking to cheer me up, it was a bit of, you know, spoil your wife time. And I was so excited. I went back in, I was so thrilled with it, and the lady gave me a beautiful pattern card. I think it was a Rowan pattern card. gorgeous lace shawl. I'll have to get these and show you, or I'll try and find it if I can. If I can, I'll put a picture sort of here where there's space. I'm getting good at moving my head out of the way now. If I can't, I'll show you another time, perhaps when I eventually cast it on. And I came out and I was so pleased. I said to Ella, oh, I'm so pleased. I can't believe you let me buy this. That's amazing. And if I say we're a team, okay? I'm not saying anything weird about our relationship and finances, but we are a team, and therefore we wouldn't do anything ridiculously splurgy without running it by the other person. It's mutual, okay? And I was like, oh, I can't believe you were okay with me buying this. This is amazing. Thank you so much. He was like, well, how much is it? And I told him, I said, I told you, it's £23. He went, you what? He was so doped up on painkillers, he really didn't have a clue what I was saying. He registered wife holding yarn and thought, yeah, okay. But since then, I absolutely fell in love with it. It's still in the skein. It hasn't been knit. I regularly take it out and just pet it. And I've been on a bit of a mission to find more Juno. And you can find it. You won't necessarily be able to find exact colourways. So that's why I say I feel a bit mean showing this beautiful oyster that's so tonal and gorgeous and scrumptious. Because pretty much the only way you can get them is if you look on places like eBay or on Ravelry, if you search in people's destashes. So if you put in a search for yarn, you can choose search in stash, and then you can click on, there's like a drop down bar thing, and you can click on will trade or sell, and that means that the owner of this yarn, the person who has it in their stash, is willing, for whatever crazy reason, to swap it for something else, or will sell it. 9 times out of 10 they only sell in domestically, so I haven't managed to buy any yarn from America for the moment, for example. But yeah, so you can pay, and that's how I got these 2 skeins of Juno. So I've been on a bit of a destash mission. There we are. Just love it. So I've not only got the back done, I've also got one of the fronts done. Now I don't know if you remember me saying about the Sattler cardigan before, when I was playing yarn chicken with the back. I said I thought I might be all right because the goes like that. The cardigan's not designed to do up. This is the right front. Yeah, right front. It's not designed to do up, so I thought I'd be all right just with 2 skeins of Juno. It's meant to be done in lace weight. I'm doing it in fingering weight. It's meant to be 17.5 inches. It's meant to be 17.5 inches long to the armhole. I've done it 15.5 because A, I was worried about the amount of yarn I had, and B, I figured I'd get more wear out of it if I wasn't constantly sitting on it and ruining it with my jeans. I didn't want it to be past my bum, but I think from looking at other people's projects with the test knits, it's kind of meant to be, and that's going to look absolutely gorgeous. So here we are. That's the front. It will have a hood as well, depending again on the yarn chicken, but I think I should be okay for the hood. I've got that much left. And the edging is really fun. I'm going to show you the needle that I've got working at the moment. Now, this is the left front, and this is so clever. I don't know how well this is going to show up because it's kind of rolling. It's done so you've got a mock I-cord edge. So if I hold it like that, it looks almost like a cord. You see there? Really lovely. It's not an applied I-cord border. I'm not going to give away the secret sauce, obviously, it's Emily's pattern, but I love it because what it means is that once I've done the panels and sewn it up, all I need to do is a little bit of finishing around the, I think underneath the arms, where you cast off the arms, and obviously put the hood on. And that's it, there's no finishing. And that means that once I finish knitting, I have pretty much finished the entire garment, which is great. I love it. Ever so clever. So that will be coming out via Expression Fibre Arts, the Sattler cardigan by the lovely Emily, who has been such a darling with pattern support and helping me as a test knitter. And I've got to show you that edge again. It's beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that will also be a finished object for next week. Here you go, more promises, Gemma. And that brings me to my final work in progress for this week, my final test knit. Obviously I was test knitting this and it had a tight deadline, and you're thinking, why would you sign up for another test knit? It's so pretty. I think it's because I'm longing for autumn and I'm longing for the colder weather, kind of lusting after these. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to grab it. Here we are. It's not finished. The deadline's tomorrow, and it will be finished by tomorrow, by the deadline. But here we are. Look at that shape. This is the Wicker Park Scarf by Erin, who is Lizzie Knits. I'll put her details here. She has got some gorgeous patterns out, and she put the call out for test knitters pretty much with a week to do it, which you might think is crazy sauce, but it's done in chunky weight yarn and it's garter, and I just thought I want to have that. I can just imagine, I'm gonna look, there we go, how schmooshy and cozy and comfy is that going to be? And look at the colours together. Oh, they're gorgeous. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the yarn and not at you. So rude. Oh, absolutely smooshy and cozy, and what also really excited me was because I saw it and I knew exactly the yarn I had to use. I have in stash more than a reasonable number of balls of this yarn, and it is, the ball band's hanging around here somewhere. I definitely saw it. What's under the ball band? Ah, I put it over here so I wouldn't have to do all of what I've just done. Wendy Serenity Chunky. Again, it's a commercial yarn, so it's super cheap to knit this project. It's amazing. Obviously buy the pattern. I think I paid £3 a ball for this, and so far I've got, I've done colour A, which is this teddy bear colour, and I've got all of that left for chunky, so that's great. I'm on colour B at the moment, and then colour C. Weren't expecting that, were you? But come on, how how gorgeous is that? It's I think, what's it called? It's not petrol, it's, these actually have names, these colourways, I'm pretty certain. I've chucked the ball band on the floor now. No, it's on my lap. It doesn't say. But when you look online, if you look on Love Knitting or Wool Warehouse, it actually has names for these colourways. I can't remember what this one was called, but it's beautiful, and I just think that is lovely. The yarn itself is machine washable to 30 degrees, big win, especially if you're wearing cream and you're wearing it close to skin, and you know, foundation ladies, it might rub off if you wear it. It is 10% wool, 20% alpaca and 70% acrylic. So it does have a big acrylic content, but that alpaca just makes it all squishy and smooshy. And I was watching Mischief make a podcast earlier, and she kind of did this with the yarn she was using, and she said, if I can't smush it to my face, I'm not going to knit with it. Face smush is a requirement, and actually I love that, face smush. And this does have face smush. So thank you, Jade, for a wonderful phrase, which I have pinched shamelessly. Mischief Maker podcast, gorgeous podcast. It's new, she's got 4 episodes out as well. We're kind of set up at the same time, which is kind of cute and exciting. So love that. So yeah, huge thank you to Erin for letting me test this for her. I just love the way the colours fade in together as well, or blend. It's not a fade, is it? It's a blend. I like that. It's not, I don't know, it just looks a bit more, it's such a simple thing, but it looks a bit more sophisticated than just blocks of colour ending. And I like the shape as well. I just think the aesthetic of that, when you, I mean, there are some finished objects already on Instagram. If you look at the hashtag Wicker Park Scarf, you'll see some finished objects, and it just looks so lovely hanging on the model or on the mannequin. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. So I love it, and that will be coming out soon. If I can find out when the pattern itself is being released, I will put the information in the down bar, and I will show you where you can purchase it from. So that is my final work in progress. And once again, it is a test knit. So that in mind, I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to have a chat about test knitting today and what that entails. I'm going to clear up a couple of myths. The first myth, and the biggest one, is you do not get paid for it. It's not a job, okay? It's a mutually beneficial process, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. The second thing is, you might not be selected to be a test knitter, and that's absolutely fine. It may be that someone only needs 3 test knitters, or someone wants someone with experience in certain construction methods, and if you don't have that, then they might not choose to go with you, and that's fine. It's not to offend. It's, you know, there's a selection process involved. So starting off, the way in which I became a test knitter for Verity and for Emily and Erin was because with Verity I loved her yarns already and her designs, and I was a member of her social network group for testing, and she put the call out for a tester for a sock who had experience with cables, and I stuck my hand in the air, threw my hat in the ring, and I said, right, this is the yarn I've got of yours. Here's some example of some cable work I've done already, so you can see that actually I know what I'm doing. I would love the opportunity. And she said yes, you know, she picked me, and that's great. With the Wicker Park Scarf and the Sattler Cardi, they were actually through Instagram. I followed Expression Fibre Arts already because I like the pictures of the yarn that she puts up. It's to be fair, it's a little way out of my budget with the American, like posting from America as well, but I love looking at it. It's one of those things that I always feel inspired by and get a lot of joy out of seeing on Instagram, and she's got some gorgeous patterns as well, and I have actually bought some of her patterns already from Expression Fibre Arts. Anyway, she put out a picture saying, Emily needs some test knitters for this pattern that we've got coming out at Expression Fibre Arts. If you're interested, drop her a line. And I did. It was as simple as that. I dropped her a line on Instagram, and I told her about my experience as a knitter and that I could importantly do it by the deadline. And with the Wicker Park Scarf, that's exactly the same as well. There are some beautiful pictures of it, of her finished object on Instagram, and she said, I'm looking for test knitters. It's a really tight turnaround, it's a week. And I sent a message and I said, hi, I can commit to this, I can get it done within the deadline time, and I have the requisite yarn to do it in. And she said yes. So just because there's a test knit on offer doesn't mean that you're going to be the best person to do that test knit. For example, if I was working, I mean at the moment it's summer, but if I was working I wouldn't be able to commit to a week turnaround, and I wouldn't be selected probably. Emily shut the call for testers on Ravelry, I think by about the 9th of August, because she said, I just don't think anyone's going to make it after this point. I don't think anyone's going to get at least 75% of the way done through the pattern, which is fair enough. So there's that. It might be that 3 people sent in pictures of their cable work and sock examples. I mean, I'm a fairly novice sock knitter, so Verity might not have chosen me. There might have been someone else who was more experienced with sock. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get chosen, but if you want to, then that's the way to do it. So anyway, once you have decided that you would like to apply to be a test knitter, you've got to be able to commit to the deadline. You need to be willing to share your progress. You might be asked to share pictures on Instagram. I mean, to be fair, actually, I haven't been asked for any of these. I've been given permission to when I've asked. I've been given permission to share them on the podcast and to share them on Instagram with the hashtags, relevant hashtags. And also you probably need to bear in mind that they may well not provide you with yarn. In fact, it's not very normal to be provided with yarn by the designers. So the Wicker Park Scarf I'm knitting from Stash, and that's really interesting as well because Lizzie Knits, which is the designer, used Hayfield Chunky, which is a brand that I can get here. And chunky is chunky, right? And so I'm using this one, the Serenity Chunky, and the gauge is completely different. I got the right number of stitches across, but I got a completely different number of rows. For me, 11 rows was only 2 inches, not 4. So we had an interesting chat about that. And as it happens in this particular instance, the row count doesn't matter because you knit to a certain amount of inches before moving on to the next colour, so it doesn't matter, but the stitch count matters because obviously you want the width to be correct. So she's going to put a note on there about different yarns and how they knit up, so that was really interesting. So I was knitting that from stash. That's worked great for me, it's used up some stash, and it's worked great for Lizzie Knits because she's able to put a note on there, a little note of caution that just because it says chunky don't mean it's chunky. And with the Juno, I've managed to use up stash. With Verities, I did use her yarn. I had some in stash already because obviously she's a dyer as well as a designer. And so if she's bringing out a book of patterns, it's going to be in her yarn, right? Occasionally they might send you, if you don't have any, they might send you the yarn to use. But 9 times out of 10, obviously, then you would be giving up the sock. I mean, the Lara socks, I don't have physically to show you. I knit them in Verity size because they were then photographed for the book and can be used as samples for the booths at her shows. So for me, knitting those socks, it was just for the pleasure of knitting them. I didn't get the socks myself to keep. And yeah, that's not a problem for me. It was lovely. It was a real honour to do. So yeah, that's test knitting. And sometimes test knitting is tricky. I have 2 patterns out with test knitters at the moment. I have my daughter socks, which are with testers at the minute, and they're just about being finished up, which is handy. Most of them have been absolutely fine. There's just a couple of tweaks. And I have, this is where talking about this Serenity yarn, I have this little guy. Hello. This is my Wish Bear. Now, before I started the project bag, I had a little kind of hobby business, I suppose, called Nursery Knits UK. And one of the things I made were these Wish Bears, and they had a lovely little story to go along with them that my dad had written, and they were personalised. So, yeah, completely handmade, hand finished. Here he is, pretty gorgeous, with his shaping and his face. Needs a bit. There you go. Yeah, so the Wish Bears, and I've decided to release those as patterns. So this little guy is with my test knitter Monica at the moment. She's knitting it for me, and do you know what, it's just as well we're friends, because the way I've written the pattern, because I wrote it for me and hadn't originally intended it to be a sold pattern to be released into the wild, as it were, because I was knitting the bears myself as gifts. I hadn't gone through it properly and checked that other people who weren't Gemma could follow the pattern, and bless her heart, she's really had her work cut out. Socks were fine. Well, I mean, there were tweaks that need making, but generally they were fine, because I knew when I started designing the socks that the idea was that they go out to people to knit, but the Wish Bears weren't intended to. So yeah, here's this little fella. He's a bit battered because he's a couple of years old now, this one, and he's been well cuddled by children who come to visit, which is just lovely. Hello, you're rather gorgeous, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so the pattern will be available, but also I will be, oh sorry, smack you on the head, that's rude, sorry. I will be releasing kits as well for sale, which include the yarn and needles and fabrics and things like that to knit your own. So that will be coming in September too, which is really exciting, or in time for Christmas or something like that. So yeah, there we are. So that's test knitting, I guess. I don't know if that was interesting. I don't know if you learned anything new there. I guess the moral of the story is it's mutually beneficial, and make sure you can fit to the deadline. Don't be offended if you don't get chosen, and have fun with it. Have fun with it. And it's a great way to get talking to designers and to try patterns for the first time that no one else has tried, which is really, really cool. Okay. I am going to move along to general chatter. Hope you've got your cup of tea. I'm grabbing my coffee. It's probably stone cold by now, so what I might do actually is just nip and put some more hot water in it. Back in a moment. So I've literally let my hair down to have a chat with you now. Oh, so what's been going on? General chatter. Well, how are you first of all? How are you all? It's been so lovely to see that so many of you have chosen to subscribe to the channel, have left comments on YouTube. A couple of people are joining the Ravelry group, which is great. Looking forward to the conversation starting there, and joining the Project Bag Club. That's really nice. It's really nice to start to get to know you a little bit more. So thank you for that. I'd love to see what you're knitting, what you're working on, what you're making, and you don't have to wait for me to put a prompt up, just show me, that'd be great. It'd be absolutely lovely to see what you're working on. It's been a busy sort of week. I touched the other week on some medical issues I'd had, and they are ongoing, but I'm not going to talk about those here. It's nothing major at the moment, we'll just see how things are going. And there's been obviously a lot of knitting, there's been some sewing, but I've also had a week where there's been some really lovely things happening as well. So yesterday, for example, I would plan to record my podcast on a Wednesday. I'd normally I did last week after knitting group, but I didn't go to knitting group yesterday because yesterday I had two very dear friends, one of Laura's godmothers and a very other good friend of mine, both came up to visit from Essex. They came up to Kent and we went on a Lara walk together. It's something that we've started doing every month, which is just lovely. They obviously know that I'm doing the 1,000 miles walk to raise money for Bliss in Lara's memory, and they said, well, let's walk with you, let's walk together. And it's become something I actually really look forward to. Once a month they come up and we go for a walk, and it's just glorious. I've got this book, Pub Walks in Kent, and one of my friends is a bit of a fan of real ale, and we all like the atmosphere of country pubs, and Kent is such a beautiful place. It's called the Garden of England, and I'm not a native Kentonian. I'm not natively Kentish. I'm actually from Essex myself, but I can really see why. I mean, we've settled here, it's beautiful. And yeah, so we go on walks. This time we did it a little bit differently because it was one of their birthdays on Monday, which was lovely. So we'd had the idea, Laura's godmummy and I, of taking, well, it's her idea really, of taking her for cake instead. So we did a lovely river walk into the town centre near where I live. It's about a 10-15 minute walk, or bimble if you're bimbling along the river, which is beautiful. We saw swans, we saw geese. We had this amazing moment where we saw this gaggle. Are they a gaggle of geese? I know it's a gaggle of geese, but what about Canadian geese? Is that still a gaggle, or is there a technical term for that? But anyway, we saw a gaggle of Canadian geese coming into land on the river, and they kept that flying V formation. It was just amazing. So yeah, we walked in and we spent pretty much the whole afternoon in, you've probably seen it on my Instagram grid if you follow me, I had the most obscene milkshake, and by obscene I mean delicious and I regret nothing, in Harper's Maidstone, which is a really cute coffee shop, gift shop, does really lovely food, really friendly service. This isn't me sort of I'm not affiliated with them or in that sense, but I had a lovely time and I'd recommend it, so it's great. Yeah, and we had the most delicious cake. I had a lemon curd sponge, like a Victoria sponge but with lemon curd rather than strawberry jam, and it was absolutely to die for. Brought a slice home for husband because of course he was at work all day, and so he had cake when he got in. And yeah, we had amazing food and chatted with the owners, and it was a really lovely day. And the day before, on the Tuesday, I had the experience of a lifetime. I went to my first children's theatre production as an adult. Wow, it's weird being on the other side of things. It was around the same time as my daughter Lara was born. It was my twin god baby's first birthday. And as part of their birthday present, their mummy, Lara's godmother, was taking them to see Bing. And Bing, for those of you who don't know, is a rabbit. He's a black rabbit with weird swirly things in his ears, and from what I can make out, he's a looked after child. Like all these little animals, there's an elephant and a panda, and actually the elephant's the same size as the rabbit, which is a bit weird, but hey, it's children's stuff, right? So it doesn't need to make sense. I watched the Popples, for goodness sake. And Sooty. Anyway, from what I can gather, they are looked after by these weird sack toy things. They look knitted, but yeah, it's very strange. From what I can gather, they looked after children. I've seen it before. I've seen it on the television. Visiting Laura's other godparents, they've got a little one who's 2, going to be 3 very soon, which is crazy and amazing and wonderful. And that's the first time I saw Bing actually on the television. So I did kind of know what to expect, but the theatre was really warm, and because the twins are under 2, they weren't given their own seats, so they had to sit on our laps, and it just got too hot. But it was amazing. They were so into it and so excited and bopping around, and that was really lovely. And after that, we went as a family to visit Lara, which was just lovely. I picked up a book and we all sat together and had a story, and my little goddaughter, who'd seen me watering Lara's flowers, kind of toddled over and picked up the watering can and proceeded to help me water her, and it was just such a beautiful moment. It was really, really lovely. So yeah, I'm very, very blessed. Lara is very blessed in her godparents. Anything else that's been happening? Oh, that's it. I need to talk to you about what's coming up. There is not going to be a podcast the first week in September, and I promised you I'd tell you about that last time, and I didn't. So let's start there. Let's start with that. I am going to 2 weekends back to back be away. The first weekend I'm going up to Chesterwell for their open weekend, which is really exciting, and from there I'm going to drive up to Scotland to stay with my dad where he lives in Stirling, and I'm going to spend the week with him. We're going to go on lots of Lara walks. I'm going to get lots of fresh air and do lots of knitting, and then at the weekend we're going to Perth Fibre Festival, or Perth Festival of Yarn, or I'm gonna say it wrong, but it's in Perth and it's a festival and it involves fibre and yarn, and it's gonna be brilliant. I'll put the proper tag down here for you. Yeah, I am booked up for the whole weekend and I am so excited. I am starting off on the Friday night with the Gin Knit Night social, which is really exciting. Dad's not coming with me to that one. I'm gonna go and hang out with some other knitters. It's very, I was going to say exclusive, but that sounds really snobby. It's exclusive in the sense there are a limited number of places. There are only 40 places. So I got my ticket for that. Gonna do that. Gonna try and put the shyness aside and do the, hopefully not be too awkward and talk to people. And also hopefully not do the weird fangirl thing, you know, where you just meet your heroes, because I've got a feeling they're going to, I mean, I know Amy's going from Stranded. Katie from Inside Number 23 was going, but I think she's pulled out now because of obvious reasons, bless her heart. And yeah, I think I've got a feeling there's going to be some fair few podcasters that I know. I mean, Ellie's teaching there, I think. I'm pretty certain Ellie from Scandinavian Knits is teaching there. I got very excited and wanted to book onto a class, but I couldn't really abandon my dad for 3 hours. So hopefully I'll keep my cool and be a normal person and not just go to these podcasters who to me are like superstars. I mean, they're obviously normal people and really lovely people, but yeah, it's a bit weird meeting people in real life, but it should be really good fun. It should be great. And then on the Saturday we are going around the festival, and I've started educating Dad already, sending him pictures of yarn and talking to him about the processes behind it. And yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to that sort of father-daughter time together. And then we're doing the knit night dinner and knitting on the Saturday, and then I will be coming home from Scotland via some friends in Nottingham and Lincolnshire on the Tuesday. So there will not be a podcast until the second week in September. So yeah, that's it, I guess. Lots of exciting things coming up. That also means the shop update will be pushed back to the middle of September as well. So I'm just going to set the shop to holiday mode then. I would love for you to consider dinging the bell if you would like notifications of when I upload more videos. I do upload once a week for the podcast, and I'm trying for once a fortnight for the tutorials. If you have enjoyed your time with me today, it would be fabulous if you could hit the like button, and if you would like to subscribe and set a date with me to come and chat each week and share some crafty talk, then that would be amazing too. Hope to see you on Ravelry, in the Facebook groups. I hope that the weather is cooler and hopefully not too miserable for you, and that you have a wonderful crafty week doing all the things you love. Take care. Bye.